the past 5 or 6 weeks, we have seen an unfolding of the life and ministry of Jesus in the gospel readings that we have had each weekend. First, there was Christmas, when the Son of God became a human being like us. And then we had the Epiphany, where the people who were not Jews, representing the whole world, recognized and accepted Jesus. And then there was the baptism, in which the Holy Spirit anointed Jesus and sent him out on mission. Then the last 2 Sundays, we've had Jesus calling his disciples. And now today, we see him going into the temple in Capernaum and really beginning his public ministry. In today's gospel, we see Jesus beginning his public ministry going to the synagogue in Capernaum, and he starts teaching, and the people are amazed because they say he teaches with authority. He's not just reading something out of the book, but rather he really knows what he's talking about. This is coming from him, from his life, from his heart. And then he amazes them even more because in addition to teaching with authority, he then confirms his authority by driving out an unclean spirit from a possessed man. But then the people in the synagogue don't seem to know quite where does that authority come from? Who is this man? We get an answer, though, in an unlikely person, the possessed man himself. He says, "I know who you are, the Holy One of God." Who Jesus is a continuing question throughout the Gospels, and particularly in Mark. Today, the people are wondering in the synagogue, who is this person? Later in Mark, we see Jesus crossing the Sea of Galilee late at night with his disciples in a boat. He's asleep on a cushion in the stern, and then a storm comes up, and they think they're sinking, so they wake Jesus up, and he asks them, "Why are you afraid?" But then he stands up, and he calms the sea and the wind, and the disciples say, "Who is this man, that even the wind and the sea obey him?" Later on, we see a final episode of the questioning about Jesus. Who is he? On the cross, Jesus dies, and a Roman centurion, a pagan Roman soldier, looks up at him, sees him die, and he says, "Truly, this man was the Son of God." I suspect many of us throughout our lives have had questions about Jesus. Just who is he? Who is this person that we're supposed to pay attention to? Is he just a famous historical figure like Julius Caesar who has no influence or any power over our lives today? Is he just one of the good and holy men that have come out in history? Is he a teacher, a lawgiver, a friend? Thomas Merton, whom many of you may have heard of, was a Trappist monk. He started off as a non-Christian, and he was searching. He was a philosophical person looking for the meaning of life. What am I supposed to do? And as part of his search, he found himself one time in the church of St. Cosmas and Damian in Rome. And he was reflecting on a magnificent mosaic of Christ in glory that surrounds the altar. And as he reflected on that image, it occurred to him, Jesus isn't just one of those historical people, someone from ages past, but rather, in the Christian belief, Jesus is God, and he's interacting with all of us. He's part of our lives, part of the lives and the experience of people who call themselves Christians. That's what that possessed man discovered, that Jesus became part of his life and interacted with him, drove out the unclean spirit. The same thing that had happened with Thomas Merton, not driving out an unclean spirit, but helping him through the interaction with Jesus to figure out the purpose of his life, the meaning of his life, to give him direction. I suspect many of us find that we too are afflicted by unclean spirits at different times and in different ways. There are the unclean spirits of materialism and selfishness and greed and racism and hypocrisy and pornography. There are unclean spirits of crime and sexual abuse, domestic violence, addiction and pride. There's laziness and indifference and anger and prejudice and discrimination, unforgiveness. So many unclean spirits that can afflict us. Jesus interacted with the possessed man in the synagogue and with Thomas Merton, and he changed their lives. He expelled unclean spirits. He gave them a new spirit, a new direction. Jesus can do the same for us. He can help us to understand our behavior, our relationships. He can give values. He can give direction to our lives. He can give us strength to make changes and to live differently. Jesus wants to do that for us, but he needs us to cooperate. He can't force us to do those things. But if we open our hearts, if we open our lives to him, he would love to interact with us and to give us the strength and to give us the direction of our lives. And then we truly can be different, but we need to invite him first.